Peace, peace, peace. I am Phillip Roundtree, and you are tuned into the July already. July 10th edition of Rhetorically Speaking. Props to the people who are watching on Facebook Live. Shouts to those of you who are tuned in on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, Quantify LLC. I'm not even going on IG Live today because I got some ish to get out and I don't feel like being bothered with them folk. Right? Listen, let me get this out the way. Yes, they still need to arrest the cops who murdered Breonna Taylor. Facts. Yes, there are a lot of things that's taking place in this world where marginalized folk are being killed, they're being oppressed, they're having their civil liberties trampled on a daily basis. Facts. What's going on with Jada and Will is their business and is minor in the grand scheme of things. Facts. Well, some of that's not facts, right? Because what's going on with Jada and Will is, some of it is our business, right? And I'm just going to get right into it. So y'all know today, Jada took herself to the red table. Will was there to hold her accountable. And unfortunately, he did the best job that he can by holding her accountable. And it was still lacking. But I'll get into that. Right? And the reason why I say it's our business too, because think about the Smiths. In particular, think about this Red Table Talk series that they've been running now for the last few years. Based on our viewership. They're not billing it as entertainment. They're billing it as food for the soul, things to help us heal, things to help us grow. It's supposed to be a place where vulnerability exists, where you can be honest and truthful, and where you will be held accountable, right? This is what the new package Jada and Will are selling us as a consumer, right? They're selling us this dream of their life. And so when ish hit the fan, because August Alsina comes out and says, on numerous occasions, and said, listen, I had a relationship with Jada Pinkett Smith. Oh, yes, we have questions. Yes, we have questions because you've sold yourself. You've made money off the backs of the people by promoting this image. And again, let me say, we're human. We're fallible. We all make mistakes, right? We all fall short of the glory of God. That's what the church folks say. But don't be out here acting like we don't have a quote unquote right to know when we giving our money to this idea that you are selling us. Right? You selling us a dream just like Bernie Madoff. And that's how y'all looking right now. So again, Jada took herself to the red table. I don't have to rehash what took place. We know that we know that she had a relationship with August Alsina. A consensual, and let me also say that, a consensual relationship between adults. Yes, we are completely aware that that has taken place. I don't necessarily think that's the issue at hand here. I see a lot of people on social media conflating issues. The issue isn't that they had a relationship as a consenting adults. With those of us who, especially if those of us who are therapists, those of us who are critical thinkers, those of us who look at relationships not just being about something that takes place between consenting adults, but how does one get into that relationship? We look at it as Jada being manipulative, right? We look at her as potentially taking advantage of August, denying the relationship. When I thought I was going to play the Red Table Talk. It was only like 12, 15 minutes long, but I decided against that. But what she said was, she said, I didn't deny that we had a relationship. We didn't say anything. When your publicist comes out and said something, maybe they could be doing damage control, right? But they're still representative of you. When he came out with that song, Nunya, and implied a lot of things related to Jada. Now, I may be wrong, but I think in a roundabout way, she denied that it was about her. But again, that's their business. It only becomes our business when, again, you sell us a bill of goods, right? We didn't ask you to come into our lives with a red table talk. We didn't ask you and Will to promote this idea of family and healthy relationships. We didn't ask you to do that. Right? We didn't ask you to do that. And so now when something comes up and we start to see a chink in the armor, oh yes, we will have questions. We will have questions. Because you didn't turn our dollars away. Right? You didn't turn our dollars away. And yes, this is what it comes down to. It comes down to dollars and cents. When you invest, that's the biggest thing you can do is invest in somebody, whether emotionally and then monetarily. That's the biggest ways that you can invest in somebody, right? And so we can't necessarily invest in them emotionally. They invest in us emotionally. They have us think about our situations, think about our lives, think about the parallels that exist. In turn, we give them viewership. We give them we get them a contract with Facebook, right? Because if it wasn't for the viewers, there would be no red table talk. You dig me? Now let's get into the focal point. The only reason that I'm concerned about this situation, right? Again, it's not even about her relationship with Will. Because relationships have their ups and downs. Matter of fact, let me first speak on one of the comments that she made in the red table talk with regards to relationships. And I found it to be a complete, utter BS. Any relationship and trying to get a deeper love is going to be forged in fire. I have no idea why people continue to think that relationships always have to be tested, especially within the Black community. Why do we have to recognize a deeper love? Because we have to go through some trials and tribulations. If it happens, yes. Yes, it can make us understand and put our love to the test, and we can truly recognize like they did. But let's not push this narrative that relationships have to have trials and tribulations in order to figure out a deeper love. I have no desire for those type of relationships in my life anymore. No, I can have a healthy, fruitful, productive relationship. Right? And I can truly understand the deeper meaning of love because I'm with my partner day in and day out. And so it's the longevity. It's the communication. And yes, it's the experience, both the positive and the unhealthy, that'll help forge this deeper love that she speaks of. But no, not, and I quote, any relationship and trying to get to a deeper love is going to be forged in fire. No, that's a toxic mindset to have in a relationship, or if you desire to have a relationship, right? That we're going to go through some things. Why would you even set out on a relationship if that's the case? You dig what I'm saying? But we're going to get to what happened between she and August. And I'm going to play this clip.
At that particular point in time, it was indefinite.
Yeah, I really felt like we could be over.
We were over.
And then what did you do, Jada?
Well, I think from there, as time went on, I got into a different kind of entanglement with August. And one thing I want to get clear about and clean up, one of the things that was kind of swirling in the press about you giving permission, which is, the only person that can give permission in that particular circumstance is myself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But what August was probably trying to communicate, because I could actually see how he would perceive it as permission because we were separated amicably. Yeah. And I think he also wanted to make it clear that he's not a homewrecker.
So I'm going to say this. The entire 13 minutes was cringeworthy. The entire 13 minutes, if I was somebody to sit and judge body language, which I do as a therapist, but I don't want to I don't want to project in that way or assume. They don't seem like they're together in that capacity, right? I think they love each other, but the way the conversation was, there seemed to be a lack of intimate love that existed right there in the midst of the 13 minutes that I watched and that we all watched. Again, I can't speak to that. I can be far off base. Only thing I can do is speak to what she said. And I'm definitely going to get to your comments because that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the comments. You see, I'm getting all hot and bothered right now. Again, 267-420-2070. Or you could try to Skype in at Rhetorically Speaking. Let's get to the comments, right? So this relationship that she had with August, not entanglement. She didn't have an entanglement with August. And when we talk about her being disrespectful of what she and August had, it's when you use words like entanglement, like this is something that happened. No, she had a full-fledged relationship with August Alsina. And so when I say she's doing the brother emotional harm, it's when you make comments like that. Yes, Ashley, I am activated. I had to take the glasses off. I'm sweating a little bit up here. It wasn't an entanglement. And I'm glad Will held her feet to the fire and held her accountable and say, no, not an entanglement, relationship. Again, language is big. Again, this bill of goods we've been sold about the importance of communication and how words matter, she chooses entanglement to try and minimize what she experienced with August Alsina. Next, with her and Will and their relationship with August. Now, I've been saying a lot that there appeared to be a mentor-mentee situation where Will and Jada acted as surrogate parents to August Alsina because he was dealing with some historical trauma. We know that his brother was killed. I think this might have happened before his sister died of cancer, where he was taking care of his brother's kids, right? So he's been dealing with depression. He's been dealing with substance abuse. When they met, it was under the guise of being Jaden and Willow's friend, somebody an artist that they liked. But look how they spoke about his substance abuse. He was really, really sick. They had to emphasize that he was really, really sick. Right? Again, we got to pay attention to what we're listening to. And I'm definitely going to get to the comments. Because I'm going to hold some of y'all accountable. Right? Because words matter. And so, again, it was under the guise of mentor-mentee, surrogate parents. Listen, we want to help you. We want to help you because you're really, really sick. We're going to help you get to rehab. That's what they intimated in the conversation when they're talking about helping him get the services that he needs. It's beautiful. I appreciate you. I appreciate you for doing that. And so now here we are. Well, first, let me tell you about somebody when you're dealing with co-occurring diagnosis. Let me explain this to you, right? So that's when co-occurring is when you're dealing with mental health and you're dealing with substance abuse. A lot of times, and us therapists experience it, right? We become attached to those who are helping us throughout the process. Some people even take it further and they become intimately connected with this individual because, again, they start skewing the boundaries, right? They start blurring the lines a little bit. And we see this in different professions, whether it's a pastor helping out a parishioner, whether it's a doctor helping out a patient, whether it's a therapist helping out a client. This is what takes place. It can take place. And it's up to the individual who is in control, right? Because Jada has a lot of control in this situation. Because she is the one helping him. Again, she talks about healing him, right? Not necessarily giving him the credit for doing the work by himself, because ultimately, if he didn't want to heal, if he didn't want to work on this, it was nothing that Jada could do to help him in that situation. But I think she talked about that later, when she talked about having this knack to help people, right? Because of historical trauma that she experienced. I've experienced that as well. I found myself dating people who I had to, quote unquote, help fix, because there was inadequacies within me. And so I appreciate her for speaking to that. But I also feel like August needs to be given the credit more so than Jada, as he started to work through it. And so now they get to a point where he's feeling good. He's feeling better. Right? He probably made some advances towards Jada. She may or may not have denied him initially. But then she starts having issues with Will. Right? And then she starts to get the lines blurred, right? She starts to forget what her role is. I can understand that and I can empathize with that, right? But here you have somebody who knows, who looks at you in a certain way, because again, you keep telling us this. And now here you are finding yourself spending more time with them, starting to interact with them and engage with them in a romantic way. And so when people like myself say that's kind of manipulative, because look at it, you're going from a surrogate mother. You're going from a mentor, somebody that's helping me with my problems, to now you're dealing with me, right? Again, it's control. It's control. It's borderline abusive. Once she started and she engaged in that situation. But again, they're consenting adults. No, it wasn't a formal professional role. They're free to do whatever the hell they want. But again, for those of us who sit back and look at it, we're going to sit there and say, "Ooh, Jada, that's kind of nasty." And we're well within our right? Because we see this take place in so many different forms of life. It could be the old head helping the young girl out, right? Might give her a place to stay. You owe me sex, right? We would look at that wrong, right? Wouldn't we? Because why? He's taking advantage of his position, the power that he has, and using it for their advantage. No matter what's taking place in his life, we would still look at it as such. Fast forward. She says, August cut it off. Like August disconnected when I was trying to understand myself and my relationship with Will. So she either used August, because it's hard to believe that he's just started making advances towards her once she broke up with Will. That's not how it goes. Someone that understands human behavior, that's not how it goes. He's been dropping hints. Because that's what people do. Right? That's what people do. And so now August is like, nah, I'm out. I'm disconnecting. Surprisingly, he was able to do that because a lot of us get stuck in these situations. A lot of folk get stuck in these situations where they feel obligated to be with this individual because they helped them. Right? We see this in so many domestically violent or in emotion. When I say domestically violent, I'm talking about physical domestic violence and emotionally abusive situations. Because they helped me when I was down and out. And so we stay. You dig me? But kudos to August for leaving. Now, Jada, she did her best to deflect, to minimize, to avoid, to shirk responsibility throughout this entire ordeal. She says, yeah, I don't know why I was brought it up. It's kind of private. Now, granted, I ain't got to shoot August bail. He got an album coming out. Somebody asked him a question, especially where he is, if he's sought therapeutic services and he's seen a therapist and they encourage him to speak his truth. Speak truth to power, which we all should be doing, but all of us don't have the necessary self-esteem and the confidence to do that. spoke truth to power. He spoke his truth. And maybe in his world, he just wanted to make it seem like Jada said, he wasn't breaking up a happy home. So he said Will gave permission. But this is Aug's truth too. Right? This isn't about Will and Jada. No, this is about Will, Jada, and Aug. And so if he deemed it necessary for his wellness, or if he deemed it necessary for his album sales, is it kind of nasty? Possibly. If you're doing it for album sales. But you do what you got to do, right? If that's how you feel, if you're trying to truly speak truth to power. When he made that song Nunya last year, I don't believe it was an album coming out. But I think it was a cathartic way for him to talk about what he's been experiencing. Because at every turn, Jada talking about her relationship with Aug, she talked about him being a drug addict. Talking to him about being depressed. Him about needing healing. Him about being sick. She never talked about him like I was attracted to him. Right? She felt comfortable in talking about all the unhealthy things that he was experiencing. And so when I say Jada is kind of nasty, yeah. Jada kind of nasty. And we need to be mindful, right? We need to be mindful about where we're giving our energy. And again, she's human. She's fallible, right? Some of us has been in that situation. Right? And it shows that she needs to continue to work on this, on her healing, which was evident during this 13-minute Red Table Talk, because she gives every other conversation 43 minutes. And how contrived was that bad marriage? How contrived was that? You don't think they prepped beforehand? You think this was truly authentic and them just speaking what I'm feeling? Come on, man. They've made a living doing this. Jada has gone from being irrelevant to now being in the forefront. Right? Will has gone from being dormant. Now he's in the public light, taking social media by storm. I applaud them. But again, let's be mindful where we put all our hope and our love and our admiration and adoration. And we need to be especially mindful to chew the fat and spit out the bone. Because everything that they're saying we don't necessarily need. So let's go to the phones, man. Not the phones. I'm just saying, because you see I'm on one. I'm going to read these these chat messages. Sister Patty, okay. She was speaking after the fact. They have been together for so long. She was speaking from her perspective. I think what you're referencing is when I was talking about going through the fire. No, but she was very absolute. Again, somebody who was mindful about their words and how she presented it. It was presented of this is what happens in relationships. Zakiya says the body language is off. Even their Father's Day conversation didn't speak to a romantic love, but sometimes love transitions and or evolves. Completely agree. Sister Patty, I wish we held men who have entanglements more. No, we're not doing this, Sister Patty. We're not doing this deflecting. We're not doing the same thing that men do when we talk about black women's issues. We are not going to deflect and pull attention away from the issue at hand. Right now, the issue at hand is Jada being manipulative and how women can be manipulative and take advantage of men as well, and is not highlighted. That's what we're referencing. That's what we're here for. She said maybe August left because he wanted more. Exactly. And he recognized, and a lot of us don't recognize because sometimes we're good with the scraps that we get. We're okay with the scraps that we get from people. I know I've been in situations where I would just get the bare minimum. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, thank you. Because I didn't have knowledge of self. I wasn't emotionally and mentally healthy to recognize and deem myself worthy. And so again, shout out to August. But again, think about how she painted August throughout all of this. It was just something necessary that I had to go through. Like, damn, if you cared about that man when you was on the red carpet and we seen Queen Latifah in the background, like, get him, girl. Say you enjoyed that man. That don't take away from what you and Will supposedly got going on right now. But if we're going to speak truth to power, speak truth to power. If we had a relationship and it was good for the moment, right? And then we separated, at least speak to that time of period of it being good for the moment. Now, I know she spoke about he gave me all the attention I needed. And she emphasized that she was lacking attention for a very long time. But don't sit here and be comfortable in saying this brother is sick. This brother is trying to do this for publicity. Don't do all that and then don't speak to the positive. Because again, we read you. Zakiya says, so often people seek out people who are emotionally fragile and develop emotional and intimate relationship, and it results in emotional abuse, intentionally or not. Facts. Ashley says, this is why we need Iyanla back. Who taught Jada these healing practices? Ronnie from the Players Club. Listen, I got my own thoughts about Iyanla. That's another one. That's for another day. Her pop healing methods. Let me see. What else we got going on? Andrea Capel says, I look at Jada as a predator. She's so worried about everyone else healing to deflect from healing she needs. Exactly. And I think predator is harsh, right? I try to say that to the boy that had the cornrows back in the 80s movie. I think predator is definitely harsh because I don't necessarily know if her intent was to purposely seek out August and to use the confidence that he has in her to her advantage. I think it happened and she wasn't very well aware of what was taking place. But I do think she was so worried about just quote unquote healing people. And that's what we see people do all the time. People get in these healing professions like myself, like, and think that we can save everybody. And what we do is we do more damage and we hurt one another. We hurt the people that we work with. Listen, I'm in the social work profession. I'm very critical of social work right now because and ever since I've been in social work and these white social workers and how they want to save black folk. No, we're not out here asking for you to save us. We're not asking for equality. We're asking for equity. And so what that means, if we're talking about child welfare and we talking about cases coming in from West Philly and South Philly, we saying, listen, we need cases to be coming in from Chestnut Hill too. Otherwise, it looks like you're being predatory and interacting with black folk in a disproportionate way. But again, that's another conversation for another situation. Manipulation is an intentional act. What if Jada wasn't intentional because she was also in a fragile place? There's no such thing. Manipulation isn't an intentional act. Because again, if you've been groomed to manipulate your entire life and you don't see it, but yet you're still behaving in such a manner, you're manipulative, right? You're manipulative. It doesn't matter if it's intentional or unintentional. But again, I think that goes to speak to somebody who's been selling us a bill of goods that they were so aware and so enlightened. Tanisha Gibbs says it's a lot of August out there. They just never open their mouth. Facts. It's a lot of men out here who are being taken advantage by women who become codependent on women because they've helped them out, right? And the women recognize that and they use it against them. This is facts. What else we got going on? What else y'all talking about? You see, I'm sweating. Kara Presley says, I think growth is continual and we can look back and realize what was unnecessary. Indeed, growth never stops. Growth takes place on a daily basis. Growth takes place on a daily basis, man. As long as you're alive, you're growing, right? It's just which direction are you growing in? Tanzanika Middleton says, "Come on, bro, you are reaching." No, reaching is you on my Facebook post. That was reaching. I'm gonna read to the people your comment, because this is what we do here, and this all love. This ain't nothing personal. You know what I mean? This is what we do over here on Rhetorically Speaking. Let me see, man. I don't know if I could find it. I don't think I can find it. But, oh wait, here, is this it? August was an absolute adult, a full-grown man. Also, women save men's lives all the time. See, that's exactly, I know the angle that you come from. Because I know a lot of black women who come from this angle, right? It's not comfortable being able to being put in the chair where we're assessing and analyze your behaviors, right? Because some black women, some white women, some women in general, right? They've become accustomed to looking at men in a particular light. In a particular light. And so we always have to deflect, just like I said about Sister Patty. We deflect away from what's taking place. The conversation isn't about women saving men's lives all the time, right? This isn't about individuals being adults. This isn't about that. We recognize that they're adults. And if you missed my intro, I got that out the way, along with, listen, arrest the murderers who killed Breonna Taylor. Right? Recognize that in the hierarchy of things that's taking place in society, yes, this is extremely minor, albeit important. Because again, there are men who are experiencing this on a daily basis. So no, we're not going to play the all lives matter here. Not in Rhetorically Speaking. No, my sister. You go out and get your own. That's a cycle she'd have to stop. Facts. Yeah, it's a lot. Tell me more, Kara. Tell me more about the fragility. That's interesting. You say that women are natural healers, and when you're with someone who doesn't need you anymore, you look for the next. I could potentially believe that. I could definitely believe that. And again, this is in love. This is in love. I wasn't looking to do this tonight, but Jada done gave me some content. Again, we know there are so many bigger fish to fry. But when we talk about community healing, because don't tell me about a collective as black folk. Don't tell me about a community and collective healing as black folk, but yet we can't have these uncomfortable conversations. Because then what are we supposed to do? We have to confront these behaviors, whether it's the Jada Pinkett Smiths, whether it's the Phil Roundtrees. We have to address behaviors because we're doing it in love. We're doing it for betterment of the collective. Dupree says the irony is that women never seem to take accountability of their actions. Always an excuse, never I messed up and apologize. Listen, I hear you, Dupree, but I got to push back on that because we understand. And I don't even want to. I know you're not talking about all women, but with me reading that comment, I have to acknowledge that sometimes when we write, I know I get frustrated when I see things about black men having conversations about women and making statements blatantly saying women. We recognize that that's not the case. No, there are a lot of women who do hold themselves accountable, right? It's just a matter of, are we coming in contact with them? And the reason why I say, and I think that's up to us, right? Because once I became better, I attracted better, no matter how cliche that is. And so once I started to truly be able to see what somebody was about, but we don't want to read the tea leaves a lot of times. We don't want to see the warning signs. And I say this to women and I say this to men. We don't listen when they're on the phone, having phone conversations with their friends, with their boss, with their family members. How they cope when they're stressed out. Because why? They fine. Or because on paper, they meet everything that we desire. You know what I'm saying? But if we truly started putting the glasses back on, right? If we started putting the glasses back on and we started reading the tea leaves, we will be able to recognize the individuals who will hold themselves accountable and those who won't. Tanzania says, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm also not saying you're right. You sounded like Jada out here, Queen. You sounded like Jada. You speaking in parables like Jesus. Maybe that's that accountability that Dupree might be talking about. Kara says, oh, nah, not trying to generalize. Actually, I guess my point is if it worked in the past, we can keep looking for that. And when you keep looking for it, it's looking for it versus getting to your next level. I think you don't want to acknowledge you did effed up stuff. No, I agree. Sister Patty says some women do apologize, and a lot of women who end these situations before they become entanglement. But that takes a heck of a lot of awareness and centeredness. It's a good time to realize ain't no perfect people or perfect love facts. We put people on pedestals and they see themselves in valleys. Indeed. And indeed. And again, we can go. It just so happened to be Jada and Will this time. Tomorrow will be somebody else. Tomorrow it'll be somebody else, and it'll be conversations that'll be had on that. But I think it's important that we come together and have these conversations, not in silos, not amongst people who are going to agree with our every word. Because again, if our desire is to grow as people, then we'll have these uncomfortable conversations, and not only uncomfortable conversations, but lead to action. And I guess my fear with the Jada and Will situation is it seems scripted. Her responses seem scripted. It didn't seem like she was in a position to truly address her behaviors. For as vulnerable and open and honest she's been as a questioner, as an interviewer, she lacked all of that in that 13, 14 minutes, which again makes you wonder where she is in her healing journey. And the only reason we care about her healing journey, class, is because she has Facebook Watch Red Table Talk. It's the only reason we care. Andrea Cable says this could happen to anyone, but accountability is key to growth and healing. Tyree says have to be able to take what you do and talk things out, period. Kara says, I think she had a private situation she minimized because she had the luxury of enjoying two men, didn't realize the immediate impact on his life and what it truly meant to him. She wanted to address it because it came forward, but August talked for an hour because he was ready to heal it, and she wasn't. Facts. Tanzania says, what would you have liked to ask her? That's an interesting question, Tanzania. I think I would have pushed back on some of the things she said. Why are you calling this an entanglement and not a relationship? Did you not view it as a relationship? Did you view it as something other? Because entanglement has a negative connotation to it. I would ask her, well, what were your feelings about the relationship? What were your feelings towards August during this time period? How long did this last? Entanglement, in my eyes, means something that was just like, it might have been brief. But the way August make it seem is we was together for some years, right? So again, why are you minimizing the relationship that you have with August? Does it have something to do with Will? Does it have to do something? And we know it has nothing to do with Will. We know it has everything to do with her and where she is. So yeah, it's definitely some questions I want to ask her. My mama, hey mama, don't make me come at you. I'll come at you, mama. She said, could it just be as simple that they was just cut up in a moment and one thing led to another and another? In retrospect, they might have did things differently. Skeletons in the closet, best left there sometimes. No, mom, that is not the case. That is not the case. No, this isn't one thing led to another. Or it could have been something happened, but again, I don't know how long you've been listening, but the mentor-mentee relationship, the healer helping the healed, the person with that establishes the boundaries, which she identified that there were some boundaries in the beginning because she said she was just solely there to help him heal. And so again, it's incumbent upon her to again make sure these boundaries may continue to stay in place. And no, skeletons don't belong in the closet because they come out regardless, right? It's important that we be open and honest, and that's what she said her and Will have. They have the ability to converse with one another. I think Will knew about this. I even think it might be in a different way where I think Will did give some permission. But again, I digress on that. Sister Patty still shooting her some bail. Maybe she was on that road, but then it all came out so fast. No, it wasn't. What road was she on? No, she was ill prepared. Because if she was on that road, it would have been like, oh, word, this came up? Bet. All right, Saturday, August came out with the interview. Sunday, I'm right back at it. Listen, this is what happened. This happened with August. No, we talk about a week and a half later. She had to put a tweet out that says, I'm taking myself to, there's some healing that needs to take place. I'm taking myself to the red table. Nah, she wasn't on that road. Or maybe she was on the road, but she was a long way from the exit because she was ill prepared. And even if she was on that road, there's still an amount of preparation that would have you come out and talk about what's taking place much sooner. Rakim says she was having this conversation with her husband, so of course she's not going to be fawning all over August. That's why she wasn't as emotionally open as you would have liked. That's not the case. That's not the case at all. I don't think she's in a place to where she's ready to have that open conversation. Because her and Will talk about a lot of things over the years. Even on that Red Table Talk. She talks about a lot about her private situations and what's taking place in her life. And then again, they talked about we're so open with one another. Right? We don't keep secrets from one another. So if that's the case, hopefully Will has asked, well, how did you really feel about him? So is it, and I haven't said this in about 2 episodes, is it Uchiwali or is it one mic? Yeah, but then don't bring it to the red table. Because now you're trying to manipulate us. Kara, who says, what I heard was she's definitely doing what was good for her. She didn't fully acknowledge him. How free could she be in front of her husband, who she's with now too? There was some clear posturing. No, you don't have to heal in public. That's not necessarily the case at all. Right? That's not the case at all. But what we're asking for some consistency. Right? So when you're giving me 20 other episodes where you all out here healing, you got your heel chest out. Right? You out here with your heel chest. And now this is the time you wanna pull back, right? You didn't have to have this conversation if you weren't ready to get down and dirty and be open and honest. So again, that makes me question, what was the purpose? What was the point of this? These ain't even skeletons. 4 years ago, these bones have flesh. And it might be sooner than 4 years ago. Because he only came out with Nunya last year. So it might be, 2 years ago? Because you're trying to tell me when his sister died of cancer, Jada wasn't all up in the spizzot? Jada wasn't in her woo bag? You know what I'm saying? Will didn't even acknowledge he was doing this thing too. I'm sure he was hurt because it seems he might have been healing by himself. I'm glad you brought that up, Kara, because I'm not going to let Will off the hook. I know I focused a lot on Jada. But at the very end, and I wish I had this queued up, right, where, Will was talking about now, like alluding to him doing his thing. And Jada got real matter of fact, like, yo, you've been doing your thing. And he said it again and she said it again. And so it led me to believe that Will might have been out here doing this thing a whole lot, even more than what we know, because you felt the tension even in those statements at the very tail end. I don't know if y'all caught that. I wish I had a clip of it. But at the tail end, when he said, now, things cleared up, do my thing. And, he chuckled. And she was very matter of fact. Like, yo, you've been out here. You've been out here heavy. Kara says, if she was on any road, she pulled over and sent that tweet, August built the highway, though. What do you think of, Tanzania asks, what do you think about Will's statement that he was willing to love Jada through anything? That's a tough one, Tanzania. Now you put me under the microscope. To each his own. What I will say is, if you're making that commitment, it has to be a mutual commitment, right? It can't be one-sided. It can't be, I'm going to love you through this while you still out here doing your 1-2 thing. It definitely requires some third-party intervention, and I'm not talking about August penis, right? We talking about some clinical intervention where we have a therapist who's helping us as we work through this. Otherwise, if you're leaving it up to your own devices, we know historically that there's a lot of data that supports that it's not going to work out. And it's an unhealthy, people like to use the term toxic situation. So again, if it depends what the parameters are with regards to the situation and where they are and how he's working to love her through anything. Because again, he could be a sucker too, right? Will can be a sucker too if there's nothing, if it's not a mutual thing. Tyree asks, will more men come out? No, because I think a lot of men aren't emotionally aware. Or if they are, they've been conditioned to be silent. And so they're conditioned to take this abuse, take this emotional harm. And so what it takes is the men's groups that we see are popping up where brothers can have open and honest conversation and talk about their frustrations and be vulnerable and be transparent so they can, again, do that necessary work so they can make the decision to see if it's worth them staying in a situation or not staying in a situation. Dominique says that's the point of having Red Table Talk, to have the conversation. But again, the conversation wasn't necessarily had. And I think, again, I think it was very surfacey. I think when we start to unpack what was said, it was a lot of denial. It was a lot of misdirection. It was a lot of lack of accountability where Will had to interject and try to hold her accountable. You know what I'm saying? I think that August was painted in a light of being an addict who was dependent. And then Jada, and I hate when people say play the victim role, because I don't think that statement does enough justice. But Jada was in a place where she was emotionally unhealthy, and she allowed the blurring of the lines to take place. But she didn't even really speak to that. Again, it was a very surfacey conversation. For them to have 50-minute conversations about Father's Day and a 13-minute conversation about infidelity and about what took place with August, it's kind of eye-opening. Yeah, Kara, that's a great point. I feel like it was just a public way to acknowledge it, but she wasn't ready to really discuss it. I completely agree. And she's allowed to do that on her own time, right? She's allowed to do that on her own time. But now when she comes out with this next Red Table Talk, I'm curious to see what the subject matter is going to be. Because now here we have this evidence. And I think it does. Listen, people are going to tune in regardless because people are robots, right? They're going to watch the watch regardless. But for somebody like me, because she wasn't as forthcoming in this Red Table Talk about what truly took place and her feelings about the situation, what have you, I'm curious to see where they go next. I think it's going to be something that's lighthearted. I think we're not going to see it anytime soon. And it's going to be like this didn't really exist. Let me see. Sister Patty says, how would you have felt if she hadn't said a thing? If they had stayed quiet, Will and Jada? Listen, I would have said, they look funny in the light. The same thing I'm saying now. It's like, what's that phrase? Damned if you do, damned if you don't. They look funny in the light. I think this helps them a little bit more, even though I don't think it was as in depth as the people, I don't want to say deserve, but the situation warranted. But if they would have said quiet, I would have been like, oh no, they're completely fraudulent. Even though a part of me thinks that a lot of what they do is scripted anyway, right? Like I said, we see if you've been around your significant other, and we don't know the dynamics of the relationship, but there was like a lack of love that existed there. Deborah Brown says, no one is really interested. She made her choice, not your business. You don't really care. I have no idea what you're talking about, Deborah Brown. So I'm gonna let you do your thing. You get your posting in, do your thing. But again, I spoke to the reason why I feel this is important, right? And feel free to rewind if you need to catch that, and why it is our business to a certain extent. What else y'all got going? Shout out to Zakia Waller, says stop trolling, go on someone else's page. No, I mean, listen, that's what people do. That's what people do. Again, I'm just being honest and open. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, this isn't, oh my gosh, the world is coming to an end. No, not the case at all. Not the case at all. We putting this right where it needs to be. We having a 54-minute discussion on Rhetorically Speaking. When I get off of here, we're going to be right back to the business. Rakeem Jeter says, folks expecting a level of transparency for these stars that wouldn't be comfortable giving even a quarter of. Again, Rakeem, people aren't putting themselves out here and saying that, listen, here is my life, take it. Right? So matter of fact, point. I'm a therapist, right? People know me as doing a lot of mental health advocacy. I be out in these mental health streets a lot, talking about the importance of black mental health, the importance of taking care of yourself, the impact of white supremacy and patriarchy and capitalism, and why we need to support our black women and our black trans women and our black trans men who don't get nearly the same pub as our black trans women, right? Now, if you catch me out here slipping and doing something that goes against those very principles that I've established myself as being, why wouldn't I expect to be checked? I can't say, oh, that's not your business. Yes, in theory, no, it's not your business. But in reality, if you've supported me, if you've bought a This Is What Depression t-shirt looks like, available on my website now, quantifyllc.net. Use the code BB, B-E-B-B-E, to get 30% off, because July is BB Moore Campbell Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, right? If you bought merch from me and you like, whoa, brother, you talking about Black Healing Matters, you talking about this is what depression looks like, but you out here saying something completely different in your actions. You have the right to check me. Dupree says, I'm wondering this affects the kids when you have a relationship with your son, daughter's friend. That's another conversation for another day, Dupree. That's you opening something that that's a real question. That's a real question. How is Jaden and Willow coping with this? Like, we were a fan of his music. We became cool with him. And now here mom is being intimate with him. Again, we talk about those blurred lines, the boundaries. Great point, Dupree. Duran replies to Tanzania, I don't think manipulation is always intentional. I've been guilty of it unconsciously and had to recognize it and apologize after the fact. Facts. I didn't hit some folk up and say, yo, my bad. Yeah, that wasn't even you. That was me. But again, that's the growth we talking about. Tyree bringing up, do we care about the women August may have dealt with in his life? Again, we can't, as far as this conversation, no. We're not necessarily concerned about that, right? Because we focused on Jada and what's taking place in this situation. That's definitely a conversation that can be had. And we can recognize and have the conversation about individuals who continue to engage with folk and they haven't healed and they haven't done the work on themselves. And so I'm sure during the midst of him being high and using substances and being depressed, he's made some unhealthy decisions that have impacted other people's lives. No doubt about it. Tanisha Gibbs, can we talk about how the vitriol aimed at Jada, though, is deeply steeped in double standards and patriarchy? I know you're not talking about me, Tanisha Gibbs, because, again, this is about holding people accountable. It doesn't matter who you are, right? Like, the facts are the facts. And so, if anything, I could make an argument that saying, no, the double standard is that women's feet aren't held to the fire when they emotionally abuse men. If we're talking about double standards, because that's one that I see here. We see people justifying and speaking away and trying to deflect away from Jada's behaviors. And so, no, I don't necessarily, I think it's actually reverse of what you're saying. I know the public too, because I don't think Jada's still gonna get those millions of views, right? They still gonna get their feet held to the fire. When we think about cheating, we automatically go to the idea of men cheating. You say, yeah. As again, when I think we have these conversations about infidelity, I think it's a one-sided conversation society-wise. Even though I do think the terminology that's used, right? We're going to call her a hoe, a slut. We're going to call her all of that. It's real tricky when we start to unpack the double standards and the patriarchy and all of these things. Listen, we understand that white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism impacts 99.9% of the things we do, like a Maury paternity test, right? But that still doesn't mean we shouldn't speak truth to power, because we recognize it, we acknowledge it. Because again, I'm going to keep the same energy. It's just a little bit more salacious because it is such a popular woman and a family who have built themselves into being the modern family. So open, which they are. I don't want to take away from it. And trying to denigrate them in any way. Rakeem says this didn't go against the principles of the Smiths. They have long been rumored to have unorthodox marriage. This is par for the course. So to expect them to open about an intimate relationship is way too intrusive. Again, I disagree. Don't bring me anything then. You can't bring me the curator stuff and then expect people not to say, yo, all right, what's up with this? You know what I mean? Well, you know what this is? I never saw the movie, but I'm assuming that this is what the Matrix is, right? And August Alsina is Neo. Neo coming to F up the Matrix. And F it up he did for today. Because we know when that next one come out, it's going down basement. All right, man, listen. I'm about to get out of here. It's 8 o'clock. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you hit that. Go to YouTube, Quantify LLC. Subscribe. Make sure you tune in. I do this thing 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. And as always, the Cash App is present. #Quantify LLC. Listen to my man Umar.
Let me see if I
Because I gave y'all some quality content today. Y'all ain't get this no way. Not with this, not this alacrity.
Last donation to the school was Richard Harris. Somebody better get on their Cash App. Somebody better get on their Cash App. Cash.me/$FDMG school. Somebody better get some donations.
I hope to see y'all Monday when we do this again. As always, please go subscribe on YouTube, Quantify LLC. Until Monday, peace.